infirmary wing of the Golden Bough was dim, lit by the flickering glow of oil lamps that cast long, wavering shadows across the stone walls. On the central table lay the captured Wilder, its form bound and contorted by the expert work of Samuel Andrews. Chains coiled around its limbs and torso like a serpent, the links tightened in precise patterns to prevent even the slightest movement without causing harm. Samuel stood nearby, his arms crossed, his sharp eyes scanning for any sign of struggle. Every clink of the chain as the Wilder stirred was met with a subtle adjustment, Samuel's practiced hands ensuring the bonds held firm. Zinera hovered over the restrained figure, her brow furrowed with intense focus. The Wilder twitched beneath her touch, its breaths shallow but erratic. She murmured softly, almost to herself, as she prepared her tools. A slender blade glinted in the lamplight, its edge fine and sterile, accompanied by various vials of sedatives and alchemical compounds laid neatly on a tray. "Samuel," she said, her voice low, "thy work is exceptional. It bends not. It strains not. I can proceed without fear of harm." Samuel gave a curt nod, his tone matter-of-fact. "It shall hold. Focus on thy work. I'll keep watch." Zinera exhaled deeply and steadied her hands. She placed her fingers delicately on the Wilder's temple, her touch firm yet gentle. Its body tensed for a moment, but the sedatives quickly subdued its spasms. With precise movements, she began the trepanning procedure, her blade cutting a small, deliberate incision. The soft crunch of bone yielded to her steady hand as she worked to expose the Wilder's afflicted mind. Her breath slowed as she peered into the cavity, her eyes narrowing with concentration. The Wilder's brain was both familiar and alien, its structure mirroring human anatomy, yet interwoven with fibrous, vine-like growths that pulsed faintly with an unnatural energy. A faint, sickly green mist emanated from the growths, twisting lazily in the air like smoke from a dying fire. "This is no natural ailment," Zinera murmured, her voice tinged with both awe and concern. "The madness doth root itself deeper, entwined with the spirit, and not merely the flesh." "What dost thou see?" Samuel asked, stepping closer, his tone low but alert. Zinera tilted her head, her sharp mind racing to piece together the puzzle. "The affliction is treatable in part," she began, her voice soft but certain. "I can purge its physical symptoms, remove the vines that clutch at its reason. But the cause, the curse, it is of supernatural origin. No natural alchemy can reach it." Samuel's jaw tightened, his gaze darkening. "A curse, thou sayest? Of what kind?" Zinera hesitated, her gloved hands massaging faint pressure points along the Wilder's temples. "A curse that binds its victims to madness, born of something greater. Something tied to the verdant Easts." As she worked, the Wilder stirred, its lips parting, to mutter incoherently. Zinera leaned closer, her tone soft yet commanding. "Speak, child of the canopy. Tell us of the darkness thou hast seen." The Wilder's eyes fluttered open, its gaze wild and unfocused. It laughed, a broken hollow sound, then stilled, its expression suddenly lucid. "The forest, it thirsts," it rasped, its voice strained but coherent. "For death, for life, for all that moves." Zinera's brow furrowed. "What doth plague the verdant Easts? Speak plainly." The Wilder shuddered, its voice rising into a manic pitch. An entity, ancient, bound to the wood. It cannot be slain, only bargained with. A soul must take its place, or it must return to slumber. One or the other. Zinhera glanced at Samuel, her lips pressed into a thin line. "How might such a bargain be struck?" she asked, her tone insistent. "And what price must be paid?" The wilder laughed again, the sound jagged and unnatural. "A test of strength, a battle for its station, or words in the tongue of the wilder. Speak as we do, and it may yet sleep. Fail, and it shall devour thee." Its voice broke into a high-pitched shriek, and it began to thrash against its bonds, the green mist around its head thickening. Zinhera's eyes widened as she saw the miasma begin to seep deeper into the wilder's exposed brain, twisting the vine-like growths into tighter, more grotesque knots. "The curse worsens," she said urgently, stepping back. "Samuel!" Before she could finish, the wilder's spasms grew violent, its laughter turning guttural and bestial. Without hesitation, Samuel stepped forward and delivered a sharp blow to its temple with the hilt of his dagger-like gauntlet. The wilder's head snapped to the side, and it fell limp once more, its body slumping against the chains. Zinhera exhaled heavily, her hands trembling slightly as she steadied herself. "It can tell us no more in this state," she said quietly. "But we know enough. The entity must be confronted, and with care." Samuel glanced down at the restrained wielder, his expression grim. "And we must learn the wilder tongue," he said. "Else all we do here is for naught." Zinhera nodded, her gaze lingering on the bound figure. "Time runs thin," she murmured, "but so long as it draws breath, there is hope." The morning light struggled to pierce the haze that hung over the tower settlement, muted and gray, as if reflecting the tension in the air. Outside the Golden Bough, a gathering of guards stood in disciplined rows, their armor catching the faint glow of the sun. Weapons at the ready, their faces bore the weight of both fear and determination. At their head stood Eden, her figure poised and commanding. She raised a hand, signaling for quiet, and when she spoke, her voice carried with it the calm authority that had held the Golden Bough together through every trial. "Guards of the Golden Bough, thy duty is not an easy one," she began, her tone steady, her words measured. "Yet thou art the shield that stands between this settlement and chaos. Every soul thou savest, every life thou protectest, is a victory against despair. Today we act not for coin nor glory, but for those who cannot protect themselves. This is our charge, and we shall not falter." A murmur rippled through the gathered guards, their grips tightening on their shields. From her place nearby, Zinhera stood vigilant, her presence lending a quiet strength to Eden's words. She nodded faintly as Eden continued, her own resolve mirrored in the faces of those gathered. "Go now," Eden said, her voice rising, carrying over the square. "Find those who remain lost, guide them to safety, and let none be left behind. Together, we shall endure." The guards responded with a thunderous cheer, their shields clashing in unison as they rallied to their task. Zinhera stepped forward, her voice low but firm. "They follow thee, Eden, with hearts kindled. Thy words do more than rouse. They fortify." Eden tilted her head slightly, as if listening to something beyond the moment. "Let us hope their fortitude holds, Zinhera, for they shall need it." The sound of boots on cobblestones echoed faintly in the back alley behind the Golden Bough, where a cloaked figure worked hurriedly, their hands trembling as they loaded sacks of stolen provisions onto a small, creaking carriage. The cultist moved with nervous energy, casting furtive glances toward the street as they secured their illicit haul. Nearby, a Golden Bough guard, one of the newer recruits, rounded the corner on his patrol. His sharp eyes caught the shadowed figure mid-motion, and his hand flew to the hilt of his sword. "Thief! Sound the alarm!" he bellowed, his voice cutting through the morning air. The cultist froze for a fraction of a second before abandoning their task and bolting toward the shadows. Their escape, however, was short-lived. Within moments, a half-dozen guards swarmed the alley, their weapons drawn, their shouts echoing off the walls. "Halt, by order of the Golden Bough," one called. But the cultist, desperate, lashed out with a knife, slashing toward one of the guards. The blade missed, but it was enough to seal their fate. The sound of heavy boots heralded the arrival of Samuel Andrews, who strode into the alley with his chain whip uncoiling at his side. His expression was cold, his movements purposeful. "Enough of this," he growled. With a flick of his wrist, Samuel's whip lashed out, the chain snaring the cultist's weapon arm with practiced precision. A sharp tug disarmed them, and within moments, he had them restrained. The cultist struggled weakly, but Samuel's iron grip held firm as he hauled them upright. He turned to the guards, his voice like steel. "Return the stolen goods to the stores. Leave this one to me." The guards nodded, their focus shifting to collecting the scattered provisions as Samuel began marching the bound cultist toward the holding cells. From the shadows at the edge of the alley, Zinhera emerged, her expression tight with thought. "A betrayal from within," she murmured to Eden, who had joined her. "The rot reaches deeper than we thought." Eden's blindfolded face turned slightly towards the alley, her voice calm but resolute. "The shadow seeks every crack, Zinhera, but together we shall seal them. Let this be a lesson to us all." Samuel's imposing frame disappeared down the corridor, the cultist dragging behind him, as Eden and Zinhera turned back to the front of the Golden Bough. The morning's first steps were taken, but many more remained ahead. The dim light of the Golden Bough's dungeon illuminated the rough-hewn stone walls, damp with the scent of mildew and desperation. Samuel Andrews shoved the cultist forward, the man stumbling as the iron door groaned open. The heavy clang of chains echoed through the chamber, accompanied by the low murmur of voices, the broken babble of other prisoners. Inside the cell, several mad wilders sat in various states of distress, their amber-streaked visages twitching with the erratic movements of those tethered to the brink of sanity. The cultist froze in place, his wide eyes darting toward the nearest wilder, who let out a guttural laugh, its jagged tone sending shivers through the air. Samuel's voice rumbled low as he grabbed the cultist's shoulder, steering him toward the far end of the cell. "Listen close, friend. Keep thy head down and thy eyes lower. Make no contact with the one in the corner, for thine own good." With that, Samuel turned and slammed the cell door shut. The echo reverberated through the chamber as he locked it with a practiced twist. The cultist slumped against the wall, his trembling breath fading into the unsettling sounds of his cellmates. Samuel leaned in closer to the restrained Wilder, his voice low and unyielding. "Thou hast danced around the truth long enough. Speak plainly. How dost thou bend such beasts to thy will? How doth one tame a stalker?" The Wilder's head lolled back, its golden eyes half-lidded as it chuckled faintly, a sound both weary and mocking. "Tame? No," it rasped. "Not tame. Control." Samuel's grip on the chains tightened, the iron links creaking faintly under his strength. "Control, then," he said, his voice sharp. "How?" The Wilder's laugh broke into a cough, sap-like liquid glistening at the corners of its mouth. "Thou knowest not what thou seekest. The thornweave, it bends the wild eye, but at a price." Samuel frowned, his jaw tightening. "Thornweave? What is this trickery? Speak clearly." The Wilder's eyes glimmered with a fleeting lucidity, its voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Strips of bark torn from cursed trees, inscribed with glyphs of old, soaked in the blood of beasts, woven with vines that twist like thorns in flesh. Place them upon chains, and the beasts bow. Their minds crumble neath the pain, till they obey." Samuel's brows furrowed as he absorbed the words. And where might one find these thorn-weave fetters? The Wilder let out a dry, rattling laugh. "Find? Craft, thou fool. 'Tis no bauble to be bought. The sap of verdant beasts, the bark of the corrupt wood, rare things, aye, but within reach shouldst thou dare." Samuel's voice darkened. "And the method? How dost thou make them bend?" The Wilder's gaze grew distant, its voice soft and uneven. "The vines, they bite deep. The glyphs, they writhe with whispers. Bind them to chain, to reins, to rope, and chant the words. The beasts' minds break. Their will is gone. But not all. Not all." Samuel tilted his head, his patience thinning. "Not all? What dost thou mean?" The Wilder's voice faltered, its words dissolving into mad laughter. It thrashed faintly against its restraints, the chains rattling as its lucidity slipped away. Some too cunning, too strong. Its laughter grew more frantic, the sound echoing through the chamber. "Not all can be bent. Not all can be tamed." Samuel sighed, stepping back as the Wilder descended into incoherent babbling. "Enough," he muttered, his eyes narrowed, his mind racing. The words of the Wilder were fragmented but valuable. Thornweave fetters, cursed tags, and chants. Pieces of a dark puzzle that might tip the scales in their favor. He turned, casting a glance toward the other prisoners. His jaw tightened with resolve. "Another, then," he muttered. "One of you knows more, and I shall find it." The Wilder's laughter echoed behind him as Samuel stepped toward the next cell, his chain whip coiled in his hand. Samuel moved from cell to cell, interrogating each restrained Wilder, their fragmented minds yielding only shards of knowledge. One spoke of blood-stained reins, another of floral clichés that calmed the beast's tempers. Piece by piece, the puzzle came together. The methods of taming these verdant beasts, taking shape. Samuel grunted as he scribbled notes on a scrap of parchment, his expression a mix of frustration and resolve. Reins, sachets, cursed tags. This madness grows more elaborate by the moment. Samuel Andrews moved through the dim, winding streets, his chain whip uncoiled and ready. The faint clang of his boots against the cobblestones was swallowed by the heavy quiet, broken only by the occasional skitter of rats. The tower settlement had become a hunting ground, its narrow alleys and crumbling stalls, now prowled by verdant stalkers, untamed beasts driven mad like their wilder masters. He stopped, his sharp eyes scanning the shadows ahead. The faint sound of claws scraping against stone reached his ears, a low, grating rhythm that made the hairs on his neck stand on end. Samuel adjusted his grip on the chain, his voice low and steady. "Come then, beast. Let's end this." The sound stopped. Silence hung in the air, thick and tense. Then, with a burst of motion, a verdant stalker lunged from the darkness. It moved with terrifying speed, its hooked legs striking the ground with enough force to send sparks flying. Its amber-streaked body gleamed faintly in the dim light, its glowing eyes locked onto Samuel with predatory intent. Samuel sidestepped, his chain whip snapping out in a sharp arc. The lynx wrapped around one of the stalker's legs mid-leap, yanking it off balance. The beast hit the ground hard, snarling as it twisted and thrashed against the restraint. Its claws gouged deep into the cobblestones as it fought to free itself, its growls echoing through the narrow street. Samuel braced himself, his muscles straining as he pulled the chain taut. "Thou'lt not escape me, beast," he growled, dragging the stalker closer with every step. The beast reared back, its jaws snapping wildly. Samuel moved with precision, circling the creature and tightening the whip's grip until its movement slowed. Just as he raised his gauntleted fist to deliver the final blow, a black arrow pierced the stalker's throat. The beast let out a strangled cry, its body convulsing violently before collapsing in a heap. Samuel froze, his head snapping upward. A shadow shifted on the rooftop above. A hooded undead rogue, its lifeless eyes glinting faintly as it stared down at him. The rogue tilted its head as if mocking him before disappearing into the gloom. A faint shuffling sound reached Samuel's ears. From the alley ahead, a horde of undead emerged, their rotting forms moving with unsettling purpose. Without a word, they swarmed the fallen stalker, their clawed hands tearing into its corpse with brutal efficiency. Samuel's grip on the chain tightened as he watched the undead drag the stalker's body into the shadows. The faint sound of tearing flesh and snapping bone faded into silence as the horde vanished, leaving only bloodstains and a faint stench behind. Samuel exhaled slowly, his breath misting in the chill air. "Another enemy in the dark," he muttered, his voice low and grim. With deliberate care, he coiled the whip and slung it over his shoulder, his eyes narrowing as he turned back toward the heart of the settlement. His footsteps echoed faintly as he disappeared into the shadows, his mind already focused on the next hunt. The verdant east stretched before them, a forest hollowed out by decay. The once vibrant canopy hung in shreds, its skeletal branches clawing at the dim sky. Willem moved with deliberate care, his sharp eyes scanning every brittle bush and rotting vine. Behind him, Nazareth kept a steady pace, his imposing form a silent deterrent to anything lurking in the shadows. Willem knelt by a patch of shriveled growth, brushing away a layer of damp leaves. The twisted roots beneath were slick with a black, tar-like substance. This should have been a thriving cluster of herbs, he muttered, his voice tinged with frustration. The sap here would have brightened a stew with its sweetness, balanced its heaviness, even lent vigor to the body. But this is ruin. The taste alone would kill a man. Nazareth stood a few paces away, his golden eyes scanning the distance. Then leave it. Thy musings on the dead serve no purpose. Collect what thou canst, and let us move forward. We did not come to mourn the weeds. Willem ignored the jab, his attention caught by a faint glimmer beneath a fallen log. He crouched, brushing aside debris to reveal a cluster of waxy pods glowing faintly with bluish light. He plucked one carefully, rolling it between his fingers. Ah, a survivor. These might hold some promise. Crush their oils into a glaze. Let it seep into the roast. A faint bitterness. Aye, but invigorating. This may yet make a meal worth eating. Nazareth grunted. If this is what thou callst promise, I weep for thy guests. Take it and move. The forest doth not wait for thy kitchen. A faint sound broke the quiet, a snapping twig, soft but deliberate. Nazareth's hand moved instinctively to the hilt of his blade. From the gloom emerged a wilder, its body streaked with amber veins, its gaunt face taut with suspicion. It paused, several paces away, its eyes darting between the two. "You should not be here," the wilder rasped, its voice low but steady. "The forest rejects you. Leave." Willem raised his hands, his tone calm, but measured. "We mean no harm. We seek only to—" "Speak not for me, Toth," Nazareth interrupted, stepping forward, his golden eyes locked onto the wilder. "State thy purpose clearly, or move aside. We have no time for riddles." The wilder's lips pulled back into a snarl. You are no better than the others. Achlai and her warband, they burned the roots, killed the trees. You will bring more ruin. With a guttural scream, it lunged at Nazareth, its hooked fingers aiming for his throat. Nazareth moved like a striking serpent. His scaled arm shot out, catching the wilder midair and slamming it into the ground with bone-rattling force. The creature writhed beneath his grip, but Nazareth drove his fist into its chest with crushing precision, silencing it with a sickening crack. The forest fell silent again, save for the faint wheeze of the dying wilder. Nazareth rose, brushing his hands clean. "Madness hath no cure. Let us hope the dead prove more helpful than the living." Willem found a suitable clearing and settled into calm. The air thickened, heavy with unseen energy as Willem's chant echoed through the forest. Pale flickers of light emerged from the darkness, gathering into shimmering forms that hovered just out of reach. The wilder spirits materialized slowly, their translucent figures blending sorrow and bitterness. Their hollow eyes burned faintly as they surveyed the intruders. "Spirits of the canopy," Willem called, his voice calm but firm. "Thy forest lies in ruin. Thy kin scatter consumed by madness. The guardian thou didst release hath turned its wrath upon thee. Shall none of thee rise to save what remains?" A murmur rippled through the gathering spirits, low and discordant, like the rustling of dead leaves. One spirit glided forward, its gaunt face sharp with disdain. "Outsider, rogue, thou dost speak of aid, yet thou art no different from the usurpers who came before thee. Thy kind took what was ours, spilled sap upon the roots, and left us broken. Why should we heed thy call?" Another spirit, its voice rasping like creaking branches, hissed, "They came with steel and shadow, thy kin. They slaughtered us like beasts. Thou art no ally to the canopy. Thou art but a scavenger, a shadow of the root slayers who ravaged us." Willem's expression hardened, his tone cutting through their accusations. "I am no slayer, nor have I come to conquer thee. Whatever wounds thou hast suffered were not dealt by my hands. Call me rogue if thou must, but do not mistake me for those who ravaged thy kin." The spirits hissed softly, their forms flickering as they circled him. "Thy words mean naught, flesh-weaver," one spat. "Thy steps leave scars upon this soil, as theirs did. Rogues bring ruin, whether they come with fire or false words." Another, softer but no less bitter, whispered, "The warband came for blood and honor, tearing through our defenses. Thy kind destroyed what we sought to protect. Thou art no better." Willem's hands curled into fists, his voice rising with conviction. "Call me what thou wilt, but know this. Thy guardian turns thy fury upon the living and the forest alike. If thou refusest my plea, thy home shall fall, and with it all that thou art. Aid us, and the verdant easts may yet endure. Refuse, and the forest's death becomes eternal." The spirits murmured again, their forms wavering like flames caught in the wind. One glided closer, its voice sharp and cold. "The verdant easts owe thee nothing, rogue. Thou hast no roots here, no stake in what was lost. We shall not rise for thee." Their forms began to flicker and fade, retreating into the shadows. One spirit lingered longer, its hollow gaze filled with bitterness. "The guardian is ours to answer for, not thine. Thy kind hath no place here. Leave." Willem doesn't take it further, and he and Nazareth continue on in search of help elsewhere. The weight of the failed plea hung heavy in the air as Nazareth suddenly stopped. Without a word, he turned and began walking, his instincts pulling him toward an unseen path. Willem followed, his expression tight with frustration, but silent. The pair emerged into a clearing dominated by a burial mound, its center marked by a dual-bladed ceremonial staff thrust deep into the earth. The staff shimmered faintly, its carvings glowing softly in the dim light. Nazareth approached without hesitation, gripping the staff and pulling it free. The wood hissed faintly against his scaled hand, but he lifted it with ease, turning it in his hands to inspect the craftsmanship. As the staff left the ground, the air grew colder, and a wilder shaman spirit appeared beside Nazareth, who was none the wiser. Its gaunt form materialized without warning, its hollow eyes fixed on Willem. The sight made Willem flinch, his breath catching as the spirit's presence pressed down on him. The shaman's voice was low and resonant, each word carrying the weight of centuries. The verdant East remembers thee, Fleshweaver. Thy steps echo with the trespass of thy kind. What dost thou seek, disturbing the grave of my kin? Speak swiftly, or silence shall claim thee. Willem steadied himself, stepping forward. Spirit, we seek thy aid. Your guardian hath turned against the forest and all within it. Thy kin hath suffered enough. Help us restore balance before all is lost. The shaman tilted its head, unreadable. Balance. Thy kind speaks of balance, while it carves its own greed into the plain. Thou wouldst barter with words for what is not thine to claim. Why should we answer thee? Willem held his ground. If thou refusest, all will perish, spirit, tree, and beast alike. Aid us, and the canopy may yet heal. Stand idle, and thy failure becomes eternal. The spirit lingered, silent for a long moment. Then, with calm indifference, it turned and walked away, vanishing into the mist without another word. Willem jabs his staff into the dirt in disappointment. Nazareth, oblivious to the exchange, balanced the staff on his finger, smirking faintly. Thy ghosts find thee lacking, Toth. Before Willem could retort, the air shifted again. More spirits appeared, their attention fixed on the staff. One stepped forward, bowing faintly. Its voice carried reverence, though bitterness lingered. That staff belonged to the shaman who sealed the guardian. Only one who can wield it may take its place. Thy ally, he may yet prove worthy. Willem frowned, his tone sharp. Thou art mistaken. He hath no stake in thy forest, nor its fate, but he can destroy the guardian. That is his worth to thee. Aid us, and thy forest may yet endure. Nazareth raised a brow, his smirk fading slightly as he glanced at Willem. Prepare my supper, not my words. The spirits murmured among themselves, their forms flickering. One spirit turned its gaze to Nazareth, its voice a whisper of wonder. The staff answers to him. Perhaps fate stirs in strange ways. Willem proposes the questions again. Will they assist? Each wilder spirit nodded faintly, before flickering and vanishing, their reluctant agreement hanging in the air. Willem exhales. It is done. Nazareth begins to slow clap. So thy whispers struck a bargain. Let us hope thy ghosts hold their word. Willem joined Nazareth as he turned to leave, the faint hum of the staff resonating in the heavy silence.